Well, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
MaryAnne are excited to kick off today's session. We will be focusing on Designing Your Life. Designing Your Life was a book that was published in 2018 out of the Stanford Life Design Labs. And it was on New York Times top seller. It's a world-renowned book. And the objective of Designing Your Life is, well, how do I go about building a life, professional and personal life, that's well-lived and joyful? And in today's session, we'll give you a briefing around the framework, what this means, and we'll go through a few activities so that you can then start designing your life. I'm Mayah Curtis. I'm with She Can as a mentor. This is my second year. My mentee is Wutika, and she's at Center College. I am based in San Francisco, California. And a few things about me is I work in consulting, healthcare consulting. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also an executive coach. When people usually think about me, my values are tied to achievement, adventure, growth, and courage, along with legacy. There's a reason why we're sharing our values with you, because they help design your life. They provide the energy and the light of the direction you want to work towards. And as many of you are, all of you are in college, something about my background is I went to college at College of the Holy Cross in Massachusetts, and then got my business degree at Georgetown, along with a whole bunch of other degrees and credentials. I think that I'm addicted to school. Let's just put it that way. And here today, I'm with MaryAnne, who is my executive coaching partner, and she'll provide her bio shortly.
Thank you very much, Mayah. And you're right. You talk about values, and I like to talk about strengths. So hello, everyone. My name is MaryAnne Mwaura Motiga. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, Africa. So here it is good evening. And my strengths are input, activator, learner, so much like you, Mayah, intellectual, and maximizer. And you can see my picture there. I'm speaking to women. I'm leaning into what I really consider my passion, women in leadership in Africa, especially. But my background actually is in media relations, communication, marketing, branding, the whole spiel over there. I'm a licensed executive coach, and also a Design Your Life coach, and hopefully very soon a Gallup Strengths coach. I studied a BA, and I'm also finalizing my MBA from USIU. Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to unfolding our journeys with you. But first, we'd like to have a quick short icebreaker. We'd like to know a little bit more about you, but how do we want to know this about you? Who is your role model? So in the chat, as we continue the conversation, please tell us, who is your role model? Just share in the chat, just type in the chat. It'll be great to hear, or rather to see, what kind of role models you have. And as you do that, Mayah, you can take it over.
Sure. So designing your life. Designing your life means, well, how do I create the life that I want for myself, that follows my true authenticity, my values, and what brings me joy? So let me share with you an example of how I have lived designing your life. And by the way, this is like one of my, the things that I live by. I will tell you that. I've been doing Designing Your Life ever since the book came out. But here's my example to share with you, is in 2020, when COVID hit us and everything pretty much shut down in March, I had to figure out what to do with myself. And I knew that my passions involved food. I'm a foodie, along with traveling. And usually I combine those two in what I do. So I had to quickly redirect, well, how do I find opportunities to combine these two areas that interest me? And I had to play around and find new people to speak with, organizations to engage with, do research online. And by doing that, that gave me the examples of the building blocks towards designing my life. And ultimately, through that exploration and testing, by the way, I'm using some life design language in here, through that building blocks and testing of different situations, I really started to create a network of foodie individuals that were global. I started taking cooking classes with chefs in Japan and Spain, in Mexico. So in that example of designing my life, I knew what was important to me. The external world was shifting. There were things that were out of my control. But in that new environment, I started playing around, well, how do I still stay true to myself and build new connections, new visions towards who I am?
So Maya, some of the role models have been shared in the chat, as you can see, are from Wangari Maathai from my home place, Nairobi, Kenya, the Nobel Prize laureate, and some people's mothers, which is fantastic. But as we will come into why we have asked you about the role models, but maybe it's important for people to know what are we going to discuss in the next few minutes whilst we're with them. So we're here to build conscious competence in school, because most of you are students, in life, and in work. And so the topics that we are going to break this down into are, what is life design thinking? What's the framework? And what kind of mindset is required to be able to go into life design? And we're going to do some share some tools with you and play around with them. I know one we already shared with you, and hopefully we can get some feedback with you, which is the Work, Play, Love, Health dashboard. And we're going to spend a lot more time on the Odyssey plans, and finally some life design practices that we can be able to implement in this new year, 2022.
And MaryAnne, I actually forgot to mention who my life model was in that example of life design. It's not, the person I was thinking about is Anthony Bourdain. He travels and he's a foodie. So for me, he's someone that I would love to mimic and be like, and a guiding force of what gives me happiness.
And I'm sure then you read more about him, watch maybe more of his movies, read by his books, so that you can get a better sense of who he is and see what things you can implement in your life design.
Absolutely, because then he provides models and examples of how to live my happiness.
Super.
So let us provide you an overview of the different kinds of thinking and how design thinking is one of those examples. How you think impacts your thoughts, actions, and feelings. So when we think about engineering thinking, it's about how do you solve your way forward. Business thinking is how do you optimize your way forward. Research thinking is how do I analyze my way forward. And in design thinking, it's about, well, how do I build my way forward? How do I build my life in the optimal direction and in a way that it's well-lived, it's joyful. So in my example of life designing, where I talked about my love of food and travel, I was building in the direction of, well, how do I manifest that in the COVID environment? I had to build by creating new experiences and moving in the direction of finding out where I want to go and how do I want to create my love of food and travel in the new environment.
So listening to that example, the reason you're doing all of this is because the premise for a well-designed life is that it has to be creative. What you were solving for a problem, even though it was COVID-19 and you knew you're a foodie, how do you become creative even though there's an issue? How do you become productive even though things are changing, evolving? Because there's always the possibility of surprise. So that's why we are lovers of this whole framework of a well-designed life. And hopefully you will be able to buy into this and get some freedom while you're at it, as the image shows there.
Absolutely. Creativity is essential. It's the foundation of life design. And in the book, there is a process behind life designing, and it's an iterative process. Not only do you go one direction, but sometimes you may go 2 steps back, 1 step forward, but that's okay because those feedback loops help you move forward in designing the life that you want for yourself. And here we're sharing with you just a brief overview of what the life design framework looks like. The first step is to accept. Where are you today? What areas of your life need to be redesigned? And this is why we ask you to complete the Love, Health, Play, Work dashboard, school dashboard, is to understand, well, where are you today? And if you made a small little shift, how is your life redesigned? And hopefully there's some insight there that we'll go through and you'll share with us shortly. After accepting, it's empathize. Well, where do you want to go? What are your values? Who are you and what matters to you? Because you need to know who you are, because that becomes your guiding light, your North Star, as you move forward in building the life that you want for yourself. The third stage is to define. That is, ask questions in a way that are open-ended. questions that allow you to uncover new alternatives and to not be stuck, to always lead you to where you used to. Because how you ask a question around life designing is really important. Tapping into what MaryAnne just said, question has to help facilitate creativity, possibility, endlessness. The fourth step is to ideate. And in ideate, this is where we use the Odyssey plans, and you'll be doing one shortly. An Odyssey plan is, well, what will my life look like in 5 years? If money, resources, time, energy, everything had no constraints, what would be the ideal situation? What would it look like? Typically, you do 5 years today. When you do your Odyssey plan, we'll only be focusing on the year of 2022. How will your life look like in 2022? Then once you have an Odyssey plan, you start to think about, well, how do I prototype parts of this plan? How do you try things in small steps? Because that then creates the building blocks towards the life that you want to design for yourself. And once you come up with many small steps, it's the final stage around testing. Well, what decisions do you make today? How do I go about looking at those small steps and starting to implement them so that I can figure out, well, this is the life that I want to design for myself. This is where my energy flow, my North Star is directing me.
Fantastic. And now you've come to my favorite dashboard. And I believe and hope that all of you, not most, all of you actually attempted this dashboard. But so what we're going to find out from you as we go into the thinking session, which is, what did you learn about yourself? So you can see the dashboard there, and you can see your gauge is talking about love, play, work, health. How did you rate yourself in your current circumstances? But how do you want to improve that in 2022? More importantly, what insight did you gain from the incremental adjustment in the revised dashboard? So for example, of course, it's the new year. Of course, most of us will do New Year's resolutions. So hopefully not eating too much sugar. You've increased the amount of exercise you have. You want to add on something in your schoolwork, maybe a new course. You want to be more disciplined. All those. What does that look like for you? And sometimes we do struggle, but what would you attain with the revised dashboard, and how would life change for you? And of course, all this is so that you can have a very positive life going forward.
So if we may ask you briefly here, is there anyone that would like to comment on the dashboard experience? How was it for you, and what was insightful? What did you learn?
Who's the brave one? Great. Great.
Yes, thank you, brave one.
Okay, Mai, go ahead. Hi, Mai.
So, by doing that exercises, I noticed that last year I really overworked myself because the work section I got like 3 score, and then for love I think it's only 1, and for play I think only 2. And then for her, I think it's only 2 as well. So I think I overworked myself, and I forgot to take care of my health. So I think I should improve on health and love a little bit. Yes.
Love it. You did that spot on, and it was insightful, it sounds like.
Maybe one more example. And thank you so much for sharing, May. That is really wonderful. And I can assure you this is an everlasting struggle, but that you're able to be cognizant of what needs to be worked on in the following year is amazing. Anyone else wants to share?
Sure, I can go next. So I look at mine, especially previous semester, I kind of overworked myself. I had 2 internships, 3 jobs on campus, 3 classes, and a senior thesis that I did complete last semester. So I had the perfect schedule, but then I realized at the end of the semester, I didn't have the me time. So I would say that the work almost like full to the 4 level. And then love, I do have love for everyone else except for myself. So I say that it's 3. And then because I was so busy, the playtime was only 1. And for the health, because I overworked too much, it's only 2. It's interesting that I kind of reflect that and see this is what happened previous semester and how I want to revise it in next semester.
Yeah. And so it's very powerful and insightful. When you did your revised dashboard, what did you envision the one shift occurring that would impact your scale?
Like which one among the four?
Yeah.
I think work was the one. Because I spend so much time, like my personal life and social life, on the work life so much that I tend to lack of everything else. And I think if I am able to manage my work time being more reasonable and acceptable, it means I can balance it with the rest of the other three, with the love and play and health. And next semester is going to be my last semester in my college. So I do want to have a really good, relaxing semester myself, not overworking like previous semester.
Oh yeah, you need to allow senioritis to kick in and enjoy that last semester.
You're right. And Maya, I've just finished reading Will Smith's autobiography, and he reminds us, Chanman, that, you know, like when you're in a plane and they always tell you to first put on your mask on before you help other people. Because if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to be able to impact? And all of you on this call are women, ladies of influence, ladies of impact. You cannot be that person if you are always giving. You need, and that's why I like this dashboard. It's almost like a car with a gauge. If there's no fuel, it's not going to move anywhere. However, however impactful you want to be. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. When we think about life design, you have to adopt 5 simple mindsets. And these mindsets help they help empower the creative process. And MaryAnne mentioned earlier that creativity is essential to the process. I can't tell you that enough. So here are 5 simple mindsets. Although we're saying they apply to life design, they really are great ways to apply to your life in general, because they foster such creativity. So first is radical collaboration. As you design your life, you must ask for help. You are not alone. It takes a team. Doing something alone or singular, it's great and ambitious, but at the end of the day, we're meant to be with people and supported with people. Really pursue radical collaboration. Second is reframing. What does reframing mean? It means that when you have one thought, try to think about it differently to get unstuck. Because when you reframe things, you start to create opportunity for new solutions to arise. You start to look at things differently. So in other words, when you have an idea or an answer, there's probably at least 3-5 more ideas and answers that just takes time to think about and be creative. Third is curiosity. Everything is new and feels like play. This is really important to think like. It's easy to get in a rut and say, well, this isn't new. I don't feel like playing. But when one does that, it doesn't foster creativity. And fourth is mindfulness of the process. Life gets really messy. It's not a straight line upward. I think we all know this. It has lots of curly cues up, down, every which way. But it's important to just learn to let it go. It's part of the process, and it fosters creativity. It truly does. In order for us to grow, we also need to feel hard times, sad times. Those are equally important as high and happy times. And fifth, there's a bias to action. In order to foster creativity, you need to try stuff. Even if you think you don't like it or it sucks, you have to put yourself out there and just try it. You need to put yourself into the game and commit to building your way forward.
Now, to committing ourselves forward, Maya, is why we really like to talk about Odyssey planning. Because life is an Odyssey. And I want to read this, if you don't mind, which is, Odyssey planning is about an adventurous journey into the future with hopes and goals, helpers, supporters, and a support system, lovers and antagonists. Of course, there are people who are going to come along the way, naysayers, unknowns. I mean, I remember planning for 2020, not knowing COVID was going to happen. But you know what? Nice surprises also coming along, serendipities, as we want to put it. All unfolding over time in a way we both intend at the start and weave together as we go. And the Greek philosopher Homer told about the ancient story of Odysseus as a metaphor for this as an adventure. So what am I saying? We want to take the time now to imagine the multiple ways you could launch the next chapter of your life's journey, your quest. And even as we talk about design your life, there's something we call a dysfunctional belief, that there's only one way that your life can go. I need to figure out my best possible life, make a plan, and then execute it. That, according to Design Your Life, is actually a dysfunctional belief. And how we reframe that is there are multiple great lives and plans within all of us. And I get to choose which one and build my way forward to the next. And a quick anecdote, one of my favorite movies is called Sliding Doors. So you see this lady and she's walking into the office, but every door she opens could lead to something else. So you're the same person. So what we're trying to ask you to do here is think, what would happen if you had 3 doors and you were able to open all 3 doors and have a peek into them and come back and choose which door you want to go forward with? That's what we're talking about in Odyssey planning.
And here's a visual. Oh, sorry, Miriam.
Go
on. Sorry, go on, sorry.
Not a problem. I would love to do this. So exactly, here's a visual or a graphic timeline. And so how we use this tool is we say, think about a 6-word title. So one of the things I like to do is, or have done, in fact, not even like to do, I've done is climb Mount Kenya. And of course, one of the other things I'd like to do is climb Mount Kilimanjaro here in Africa. So I could say, one of the things I'd like to do is also lead people to hiking. So I could call this a 6-word title. I'd love to be a mountaineering champion or trainer, whatever, or hiking champion. That's what I'm calling that. Then I ask myself, what does that look like? What if I wanted to do that and step away from this person I am? And so I'd ask, what kind of resources do I have? Do I like it? Yes, I like walking, but I don't know if I want to spend days and days on mountains. Maybe yes or no. How confident am I in doing it? I could say yes, because I've done 1 mountain and then I could do a 2nd mountain, maybe a 3rd mountain. How coherent is it with my values? Now, remember earlier, Mayah shared with you her values about adventurous. Yes, that's one, adventurous as one of it. I talked about my strengths and I like to learn. So maybe that's one of the things that is coherent to who I am. So it gives you a check about all these gauge points about the plan that you want to do. And in that, you'd also ask yourself questions, like I just asked when I was planning through all of this. Does this sit within my values? Is this something I want to see for myself in the future? Could I see myself doing this until, till I die? So there are all those questions you could ask yourself with this tool.
So our next step here is for you to create your Odyssey plan. In that last slide, MaryAnne walked through what it would look like for her to become a mountaineer and conquer Mount Kenya or Kilimanjaro. Now let's focus on your Odyssey plan. So grab a paper and a pen. Hopefully you have one nearby. And we want you to reflect on the dashboard that you completed. Think about the insight, the observations that you learned about yourself, and start to design a future life you would love to be living in 2022. How would you recreate that dashboard at the end of the year so that it was more balanced, or it was reflective of what gives you energy, you feeling like you have a well-lived, joyful life? So as you start to create this future life vision, take into consideration a few things. First, what story do you tell yourself today? Do you like that story? How do you want it to improve? How do you want it to look better? Or what do you want to remove from that story? Because you have the opportunity in Odyssey planning to redesign your story and start building towards that vision you want for yourself. And second, what would you do if money, image, resources, timing were no object? Pretend that there are no limitations. How would that be incorporated into you creating this ideal future life in 2022? So now you start to have a story of what your future life looks like. Lay it out over the next year. You're going to draw it out. You can draw it with Stick figures, characters. I'm a really bad drawer, so I would probably use words, right? So you want to use the template that we'll share with you next to draw out how this future life would look like over the next year. And remember to complete the bottom portion that MaryAnne walked you through. Create a title that's 6 words or less, and indicate on the dashboards on the bottom how you feel around your life, your future life that you're creating, along with what questions is this future life Odyssey plan that you've created answering. So you have 5 minutes to do this, and then we'll regroup to see how did that Odyssey planning go. Let me just pause for a second to see if there are any questions around the directions of this Odyssey planning.
This is Barb. Are you gonna turn, Grace, are they gonna turn the video off, or are we just gonna wait?
If you want, scholars, if you want to turn your video off while you do this, that's fine. If you want to keep that on.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, we have a quick request if you could go over those bullets again, Maya.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Okay, grab paper and pen. Hopefully that's the easiest one. Second is, take a moment to look at your dashboard. How did you feel about it? What feelings evoked? What ideas, hopes, and dreams came out of completing that dashboard? For example, with the 2 people that spoke, they wanted to focus less on work and school and more on play and love. Well, then what do they need to do over the course of the year to focus on play and love? So design how your life would look like over the year, the course of 2022, the ideal life scenario, future life that you would like for this year. And once you have that visual image, now start to draw it out on a piece of paper. How does that look over the course of the year? What does it take for you to get there? So that by the end of the year, if you did the dashboard again, you'd see an improvement in the areas that you wanted to focus in. Then afterwards, after creating your Odyssey plan, you'll create a title that's 6 words or less. It's intentional to be 6 words or less because we want you to be concise. Sorry, we want you to be not judgy. Just let it go and plan within only 5 minutes. Hopefully that provides more clarity.
Thank you.
Great. So here is the Odyssey plan template. Take a moment to reflect on what kind of Odyssey plan you would like to create for the year of 2022, and then start to design it out. And then measure, do you have on a scale of 0 to 100, do you have the resources to complete this? From cold to hot, how much do you like this Odyssey plan? What is your confidence in pursuing this Odyssey plan? And how coherent is the plan with who you are, your values, your strengths, your natural, authentic self? So we will start the 5 minutes right now. I'll give you a 4-minute heads up.
Maya, will you explain coherence again?
Sure. Coherence means how much of what I'm doing, or how much is this Odyssey plan aligned with my values, my strength, my authenticity. So for example, if someone is an introvert or quiet and the plan says that they'll become a public speaker, well, how coherent is that with who they are? And it's okay if it's low. If anything, that's expressing a yearning or a desire to start shifting towards. Don't judge oneself in completing this. Just let it go. And part of it being a quick exercise is to tap into the unconsciousness and give it that space to speak. Okay, I will start the timer. We will regroup in 5 minutes. get there. Thank you. So how do you start your designing journey? Each of you has done a dashboard that gives you a sense of where you are today, your accept stage. You now have created an Odyssey plan, or at least started to. It takes time. Odyssey plan, sometimes it's okay to revisit, to come back. You can't complete them in 5 minutes. And you'll be surprised how they shift to upon revisiting it over time. But you've started the Odyssey plan, and take the one that you've done for this year and identify one activity you want to prototype. And prototyping means something that's quick, small, and easy that you can do to test and create a building block in the direction that you want to design your life. And when you do this, when you start to execute on prototypes, you create evidence to learn more about what you truly enjoy and what you want. So take your Odyssey plan, identify one activity you want to prototype, play with. Then take one of the life design mindsets, especially one that's challenging and requires you to grow, and apply it. So for sometimes people, it's curiosity. They have to learn or push themselves to be more open-minded, to think that everything's new. For some people, it's a bias to action. They're so concerned about work or other things or school that they don't take the action to prioritize time management, their health, their relationships. So pick one life design mindset, one that's challenging and requires growth, and apply it as you prototype. Then identify one thing that could derail you. That is one thing that could get in the way of you achieving this. And how will you proactively prepare for it? Because when you prepare for something proactively, you start to create the mindset of, I can do this, I can manage it. Like anything that comes my way, I've got that, right? So try to think about what is one thing that could derail you in pursuing the prototype, and prepare for it. And lastly, we want you to designate an accountability partner, either someone in SheCan, your mentor, or someone at school. Ideally, I think it should be someone in this group because they're familiar with designing your life after the session. But find an accountability partner and tell them, this is what I'm prototyping. This is the mindset I want to work on. And this is how I could get derailed. And I know that, so this is how I'm preparing for it. And when you have an accountability partner, it strengthens significantly one's confidence and completion of what they're setting out to pursue.
So thank you so much, Mayah, for giving us the tools, giving us all the summary of what we need to do, and most importantly, I think, having that accountability partner. And why are we doing all of this? Life is a maze, as you can see out there, and you can decide to go in each and every way, or the sliding door example I gave earlier. We want you to remember that life is not one single plan. It's a journey of many unfolding self-discovery journeys. And what we want to encourage you to do is find time. Find time to reflect. Find time to find joy. And I'm really, really appreciative of the examples given earlier by the ladies earlier, sharing, being vulnerable and saying, you know what, I overworked last year and actually it's not healthy for me. I need to work on my mental health. I need to find joy. I need to find time with my relationships, with my family, with my friends. And those things actually fuel you to become better at other facets of your life. So hopefully with the few minutes we're able to share a design life journey with you, our examples, and hopefully this was invaluable to you. Thank you very much for giving us your time, SheCan, and wishing all the best for the summit.
Thank you.
Wow, that was great.
Thank you.
I want to add one thing. I have an accountability group that everyone's a part of SheCan, and we're all about our health and our weight. And we log in every day what our scale says and how well we did with exercise and food. And it's so helpful. And it's fun because I'm bonded with them. So I really recommend it. Yeah.
And in that example, that's radical collaboration. You're with,
Radical.
yeah, you're with a group of people that are supporting you. And there's a comfort of vulnerability and trust, because it's a very deep and sensitive topic for some, but you're able to have this community where you collaborate on a common theme and vision together.
Yeah, it works. Thank you, you all. That was so great.